Okie dokie. Hello. Greetings, people of the world. My name's Esther, and this is my first attempt at a podcast segment chat type thing. And the things that I really would like to cover come under 4Fs. So I've decided to call the show 4F. 4F or 4Fs, but that sounds harder to say. So we're going to chat about faith. We're going to chat about fun because fun is a big motivator for me. We're going to talk about fitness because, to be honest, in this season, that's a priority. And we're going to talk about friendship. So, that's just a little intro of sort of me and what I'm about and the kind of things that I engage in this season and the kind of things that I want to share and inspire and give some insight into. So I will start off with a little bit of an introduction to myself. So you can probably tell by the accent that I am English, although could be tricky because I did spend 5 years in South Africa. My husband Tyrone is South African. And yeah, we moved here from South Africa just over 5 years ago. Well, because God told us to. And he and I are still having discussions about that. But I'm beginning to come around to his way of thinking. So that's a whole other episode when we chat about faith. So Tyrone, my husband, is South African. We met in England and, God saved him. We dated, we hooked up, we got married, blah, 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 blah. We did some missionary work in South Africa. We did some normal work. We did some dance. Well, Tyrone didn't dance. I did dance. I'm a dancer. And then, so story of our life is trying to stay together as a family, really, with visas and passports always being a hassle. So that was one of the reasons that we came to Ireland, to sort of build a home here and hopefully both have the same passport one day. And now we have an almost 2-year-old. So I guess we have an Irish son, although he still needs his passport. His name is Ezra. He is awesome. He's just the best. He's really annoying, but he's awesome. Anywho, so we have me, Esther, Tyrone Lucioli, and Ezra Lucioli. And we make up a little family doing life in Ireland. And shoot, I was about to say something. It was in my brain and then I forgot. I was going to say, so we have been married about 10 years. I'm about to turn 30. Tyrone is just over 30. And yeah. So that's I guess, a little bit of an introduction. You can't really get to know us by that, but hopefully you can paint some sort of picture in your brain that will be accurate until proven otherwise by something we say or do or a picture that you see. Because we all build up this idea in our head of what we expect something to be. And it's very rarely right, which is funny. So, a little background to me is that I grew up in a Christian family. My parents were missionaries in Ghana, in West Africa. So that's where I grew up the first sort of 7 years of my life. We moved to England when they finished training a team over there, although we moved back earlier than we were supposed to because I got very sick. So I was whisked away on the airplane. I remember, I think I went from the hospital to the plane to the hospital in England. Overall, quite a traumatic experience for me, but I didn't know it at the time. But yeah, so then I settled into England, although not really. I didn't like it. Ghana was always my home. Ghana is just, yeah, Ghana was quite a huge part of my identity growing up. And England was really tough. The culture shock, the difference in the way people handle faith and Christianity, it all broke me. And I took to mainly comfort eating, and then I eventually got into a depression and some health issues and suffered with chronic fatigue and all kinds of things, which really got in the way of one of the topics that I want to talk about is the whole fitness thing. For me, it's mainly dance. Um, and yeah, this, I didn't realize the capabilities that I had back then because I was so sick all the time. I'm still sick quite a lot, but I am still more than capable, which is a topic and a discussion all for itself. So where are we? Yeah, school sucked, blah, blah, blah. Eventually I went to do performing arts at a college and I met Tyrone and I kind of came into myself a little bit and I was much healthier. I worked hard. I did quite well overall. And then, God called us to be married and we went back to South Africa to work on a youth network project with Wycliffe Bible Translators. And that was, really challenging, as you would expect it to be. So young, newlyweds, new country. Basically, there was quite a lot of training and back and forth and a lot of wrestling with visas. I have to say, like, our life in the paperwork was depressing and tough. And yeah, so I guess through our various adventures and seasons of life, seasons of love. Do you guys know that song? It's such a good song. It's Seasons of Love, not Seasons of Life. But anywho, I say a lot. I'll work on that. So so it's better for a bit. So yeah, eventually, we'd done a lot of back and forth, England, South Africa, and just couldn't get settled in England. We had hoped to go and study theology and performing arts in England after we were married, after we'd done some work in South Africa, but our visa fell through and it was a nightmare. We were separate for about 4 months and it sucked. So we just got on with life in South Africa as best we could until our next chapter reared its head and God's like, hey, go to Ireland. And we're like, okay, that's hilarious. And then he's like, no, really? And I'm like, oh, Ireland. It just never occurred to me that that's anywhere we would ever go. But anyway, long story short, we land here, we arrive. I remember unpacking, and in this freezing cottage, we arrived in February, and I said to God, I was like, what have you done to us? Things weren't perfect in South Africa, but we had an amazing community. We were so close with God and his work and blah, blah, blah. And I had my own dance troupe that I was training and discipling. And we were just getting ready to start actually performing and going to churches. And yeah, and God's like, okay, time to go. And we're like, fine. And then to be honest, Ireland has been probably the worst experience of my life. Not, the country and the people, like something wrong with y'all at all. Just what we have had to go through since arriving here, the character growth, the trials, the dark night of the soul, where miracles don't work the same way here as they did in South Africa. And that just confused the hell out of me. I mean, heck, sorry, shouldn't say that. Yeah. So our latest adventure has pretty much been brokenness, misery, depression, oppression, anxiety, and figuring out who we are as Christians amongst all of that, and figuring out who God is in this world where we barely recognize him as who we thought he was. And to be honest, that is a journey that we are both still on. Like, definitely through the worst of it. I don't know if you guys know or have heard of the dark night of the soul. It's what people talk about, where, a lot of Christians, they go through that time of doubt and questioning and really wrestling with God over things. And that'll be some other topics as well that I'll probably jump into. But I've got to be honest, at this point, I am not at the end of our story, and I'd say neither is Tyron. We're not able to look back at the suffering and say how God was faithful, because to be honest, we're still in the suffering. Yeah, we're pretty broken, to be honest. But I think we have such a heart for real connection with God and with people, a desire to kind of thrive with whatever and however situation and circumstance we're in, to be teachable and to teach, to grow, to question, to wrestle, to discover more and more of this life in God in it, and his plan for us, and what the heck it looks like. So that is probably a decent enough introduction for now, I'd say. How long have I been talking? Let's have a look. 11 minutes. Yeah, I was aiming for about 10 minutes, so the fact that I'm only a couple minutes over and I am a babbler is very, very good. So I really look forward to chatting in the future, diving into some of these topics, getting into the nitty-gritty. It could get pretty raw, to be honest, because I have not much of a filter. Once I start talking, obviously we can edit things, but the truth is, like, I'm a mess. But I am committed to figuring out and partnering with Jesus as he sorts me out and as he tries to fix me. Yeah, and you're welcome to come along the journey with us, and hopefully as we talk and as we delve into some of these things, you'll be inspired, or God will be able to speak to you or minister to you in some way. And yeah, so that's us. Have a great rest of day, and we'll chat to you soon.